and 8,900 square feet of retail space. Section block and lot is 48.80-1-25.100 and 26. Seeker determination zone C2 mixed use overlay district. Kingstonian Development LLC is the applicant. Kingstonian Development LLC and City of Kingston are the owners. The applicants are going to conduct a presentation tonight where they will be answering the public comment as well as comment from the Ulster County Planning Board. So you folks want to come up to the table and we'll grab some microphones here and introduce your team. And this is not necessarily going to be exchanged with back and forth with the board members. You can just answer questions, answer your comments, and we'll go from there. Thank you. Yep, you have to push these. They make them green. Push the buttons. Yeah.
Hi, Dennis Larios, site engineer for the project.
Scott Dutton, 19 Canfield Street, architect for the project.
Mike Moriello, lawyer for the project. So in response to some comments that were made during the public hearing process, I did send 3 memos to your staff this past week. One had to do with the Florida area ratio calculation, which we will add to the final plan set, but just to demonstrate that it was well below the 2.8 maximum allowed. So pass those around. The board doesn't have those yet. Another memorandum I did was in relationship to the floodplain development permit. 0.15 acres of the site, the lowest northeast corner of the current city parking lot, is in the zone A of the floodplain. So this memo explains that we will seek a floodplain development permit for that portion of the project, which is just really the very extreme northwest corner, and how we will comply without the need for any variance from your floodplain development regulations that are embedded in your zoning. So I have that along with the FEMA map and highlighted in red the little area. There's a little portion of the project that's in the blue zone, which is zone A. I don't know if there's any staff questions about that. The other memorandum I submitted, I think the most recent one, has to do with parking and what the parking requirement is for the project as per your zoning code and what's provided both on the site and within the 400-foot provision in your zoning code that allows for you to waive on site. We do have the requisite parking on site, but we did evaluate, and I think this was the zoning requirement at the Kingston Plaza, which was requested by staff, and I had provided the staff the breakdown of that. But there are 1,665 spaces in the plaza, and zoning requirement for the plaza is 1,062. It leaves 603 spaces in excess of your current zoning standards in the Kingston Plaza. 2 areas were identified for overflow parking on the 2 ends of the project, basically the Dutch Village end of the plaza, the Dutch Village end, and the baseball Herzog Field end. So it's the east and west end of the project. Those are identified. Also, I submitted a map. This is a larger scale, also to address and talk about some of the county comments. I also point out that the county, the public, and the city special events have used the plaza parking lot with permission of the plaza ownership pretty much continuously since 1963 at no charge. And my memo highlights, also what the areas that will be available during the construction of the Kingstonian for that temporarily displaced parking, as well as the staging area for construction materials for the Kingstonian project off the left field end of the ball field, Herzog's Field, and that's identified on the project. We also highlighted the pedestrian pathways into the plaza, which the county planning board wanted, and how everything will connect. And so I don't know if there's any questions. I do have this exhibit map in a smaller form for everybody and a larger one. But since you have a hole in the middle of your table, we can't roll out the larger one.
Right. No, I do acknowledge we did receive those. They have not yet gotten circulated or posted to the website. So staff is still reviewing them,
Sure.
and we will forward any questions or comments that we have.
Okay, and the other thing, we wanted to make sure that the county planning board comments, which you can. Thanks. Whether you've had any comments on which ones you felt were required modifications in particular that we wanted to discuss with the board briefly, at least. One of the required modifications was the applicant working with the city should develop and implement plans to improve safety along North Front Street in the area of the project as discussed. And they're talking about, when we met with the county, pretty much they were talking about the pedestrian walk up to the proposed pedestrian plaza. And they had suggested possibly a demarcation in North Front Street at the frontage of the pedestrian plaza that would essentially warn motorists to slow down, stop, something more than just the painted crosswalks. So we want to discuss that with you. Our idea is just to colorize that.
Right, a traffic coding similar to how it's done in major cities where the entire intersection is has a demarcation with a different color. I mean, we were thinking maybe like a brick red or something. Just make it more than just striping at the crosswalks.
Right. I had listened to the county discussion, and I've talked to Dennis Doyle about that a little bit. And they had also put forward the possibility of raising the intersection up. I have asked our DPW to weigh in on that.
Mhm.
Obviously, since they are the caretakers of our streets, I have not gotten a formal reply from them as of yet. So we will follow up with that. But I agree. I mean, in general, I agree with the comment as you come out of the plaza area that's being constructed to create, more of a sense, more of an, just an awareness of the increase in pedestrian traffic that will be present there. And painted demarcation can be done. It could be, the crosswalks, and then in the center could be a nice design kind of element. It could be an attractive piece added. Yeah.
We agree. We think that was a good comment. So we favor the traffic coatings as opposed to the large speed table, if you will, but that, as you rightly point out, is DPW.
I know the board members have copies of the county comments in their packets. I don't know if you want to add anything, if you have any additional thoughts on that particular item.
The only concern I would have with the raised is the snow plows tearing it apart.
You think it's the raised
Areas, when it steps up even that fractional amount, you see what they do to the sidewalk corners and whatnot.
okay. So you would be in favor of that?
I don't like the raised.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
So the painted
I
would
would
be
go for
your
painting,
preferred
yes.
option. Okay. Sage or Emily or Wayne, any thoughts on that?
No, a delineation in that intersection will definitely help. I would have to see what the raised area looks like before, we're not going to put it in, obviously, and then look at it, but just so that it doesn't get ripped up or, by plows, I'm sure that there's a design can accommodate that. So that's my only thought about it.
We think that we can accomplish that same safety element without raising,
Okay.
but
The large block of color, which is, there are examples of it throughout the Northeast and other urban areas where an entire intersection, New York City, where multiple streets come together and they turn that into almost like a public space on weekends and for events. It just designates very clearly with a strong color.
we are doing a lot of utility work out in front of the pedestrian plaza as part of the project. So, I mean, it's not really a significant cost at all to pave up with a little more sub base. But I would be more inclined to think.
It might be a good idea to reach out to Emily Flynn, who is the city's health and wellness director. She also is working on the pedestrian master plan, pedestrian bike master plan. So this would be right up her alley. It might be a good idea just to touch base with her and get her thoughts on that as well.
So back to this being a county comment, it's something that we think was a good recommendation from them. It's a minor detail, whether what the color is
Right.
or how much of a speed table increase that is, if it's up an inch or two. We think flatter is better. Having a curb line makes more sense to us, but it's not something that we take objection to. We think it was a
Okay.
good comment from the county.
Okay, another required modification was the city working with the applicant should require implementation of improved pedestrian safety within the area where the project connects to the plaza. We think the plan, and we will highlight it better on the site plans that were submitted at the end of March, already addresses that pretty effectively. And there's been improvements within the plaza at both ends, very recent improvements, the sidewalk extensions and connectivity with the Midtown Linear Park, which was done both with work voluntarily done by the plaza, which also included adding 2 bicycle parking areas in the plaza and pedestrian crosswalks and access points at the bottom of Westbrook Lane and at the main plaza entrance at Schwenk. We're also going to have a defined walkway, ADA compliant, at the base discharge point of the pedestrian bridge, where people can exit that bridge and walk safely through a crosswalk to an internal sidewalk to the plaza. The one thing we're not sure of, obviously, because the plans have not developed yet to the extent is, is the Midtown Linear Park going to get extended to the west? And if that happens, we'd be glad to connect to that more effectively between the pedestrian tower, so to speak, and the Midtown Linear Park. Currently, that's just a railroad bed. But there is a defined walkway around the outside of that curb line. We would object to changing the vehicular configuration of entrance and exits from that main plaza entrance. And that was just maybe a suggestion more than modification. Maybe you can take a traffic lane out. We don't think that works for the plaza.
Okay, I was going to ask you, what's the basis of your objection? Because I kind of thought that was a good idea to reduce, since traffic will not theoretically be going up Fair Street any longer once the project is complete, the removal of that straight through lane and adding it to a turn lane going up the hill, I think would be a better use of that area, and could also potentially create a safety zone in the center for people crossing.
Well, I'd be concerned about sending people down the middle of a very busy plaza entrance, even if we removed a lane. I
But when
think my
people
main
come-
concerns were, I didn't think it was gonna advance pedestrian safety in that area.
But when people are coming over the bridge, over the walkway, right, and down, then they come out and they would cross over those 3 lanes and then cross over the tracks and head into the plaza, the way the yellow line is showing on your drawing.
Mhm.
So they would cross there over those 3 lanes, or coming out, and the 2 lanes, there's really 2 lanes going in.
Correct.
So there are 5 lanes of traffic that the pedestrian would be crossing. So removing one of those and creating a pedestrian safety zone somewhat in the center area might be a good idea.
I don't agree, but I mean, you have to weigh this as a board. It's a recommendation. And they didn't specifically say that you have to do that. They just said they want a better enhanced pedestrian between the Kingstonian project and the plaza. So I'd like in the next few weeks that we can tie that down, what that is. We think it's pretty effective and functional now there. We would like another crossing of the railroad closer to Walgreens, but right now that's leased to the railroad. Okay, the other required modification was show parking during construction and staging areas during construction, and that this map shows those areas. 223 spaces on the west end and 176 spaces on the east end, and a staging area that wraps around the ball field, which currently has been a construction staging area for other projects in the past, including the recent roundabout project.
How does the Catskill Mountain Railroad, they have a certain number of those spaces on that end allocated strictly for them or reserved for them?
Well, I'll let Mr. Jordan speak to that, but as you know, that the activities there on a time basis are very limited, targeted, typically don't occur during normal business hours. Weekend,
Okay.
it's usually weekends, holiday kind of events.
Times when I'm in the plaza, I see that part of the parking lot empty,
Okay.
except when I just wonder about the safety of people walking through the plaza to get up to Uptown. I've walked through that plaza, especially that road going behind, if that's a road, going behind Herzog's, and I haven't necessarily felt safe, but I've done it anyway because I'm adventurous. And I just wonder about people walking from those areas up to Uptown.
Well, this again would be a temporary situation, and there's roughly 140 spaces in the current lot that's being temporarily displaced. So they'll have a choice between two larger lots than both significantly larger than 140. Westbrook Lane is one pathway that goes up to Clinton, and then the other one would be a walk through the plaza and they typically probably would not be able to walk through the construction project, so they would find alternate pedestrian route to, which would probably be up Schwank Drive to Frog Alley.
Well, you will have a certain number of the occupants of the Kingstonian as residents will also probably make use of, the businesses in the plaza. Obviously they'll walk down that way, and so we'll take a look at that.
And the other comment, which was advisory, was a snow removal plan for the pedestrian plaza, and we'll develop that.
Mike, do you want to speak to the memos that you prepared and submitted? I know that they have been circulated around to the board members, and they were in response to the 2 comment letters that came from Victoria Palladoro on
Sure.
behalf of her client.
First, I can address the the July 1st letters that went to the New York State Empire State Development, the DEC and the ESD, economic entity, and for Empire State Development. There was a claim by the project opponents that the OPRHP review of the stockade area should be reopened because of the refinements to the project that have been made. We have 2 response letters dated July 1st, 2022, one from Thomas Scaglione, the Mid-Hudson Regional Director of Empire State Development, and one from Mr. Lang, who is with the New York State DEC. Both of them have responded to Victoria's letter, Victoria Palladoro's letter, and my letter in response, whereby we said we have a neg deck, we have decisions that have been made by the court that have been ruled in our favor, and we now have, at this time, as of last week, an appellate division affirmance of the lower court, Supreme Court decision in favor of the city and the developers on the OPRHP question. So the 2 entities have stated that reopening is not going to happen with them. And as far as the issue is concerned from a legal standpoint, it's over. We've been upheld at the appellate division. That was a unanimous decision. It cannot be appealed to the Court of Appeals. So as far as I'm concerned, that decision has been made. I will also state that apparently, although I don't have a set of the papers that were sent by opposing counsel to me or to my clients yet, there's been a lawsuit brought against the HLPC. I maintain that lawsuit is identical issues, and issue preclusion and res judicata and standing and a bunch of other issues are going to deal with that issue. I honestly don't think that lawsuit should have been brought, especially in light of the appellate division decision. But we will deal with that. It'll be one more lawsuit to deal with. As
I
far
have
as
not seen that either yet. So
yeah, yeah, it's interesting. Anyway, to the 2 letters that were sent in by the project opponents and by Victoria Palladoro, I have a very kind of lengthy submittal here dated June 23rd. It walks through each and every contention that was made, and I can tell the board that the vast majority of decisions have been made by the courts, and these issues have been determined in court. The first question was that the project will negatively impact the Kingston historic district. This has been the contention for the better part of 4 years. That has been determined again by the appellate division. And as far as from a legal standpoint, that's over. The planning board has been upheld in in the court below, and the court at the appellate division found that the litigants did not have standing to bring the lawsuit. So that's over. The second question was that the issue was the project does not incorporate the principles of form-based zoning. The form-based zoning has not occurred. It's prospective for the city. We're not charged with looking, or the planning board is not charged with looking at laws which are not enacted and not in effect. As far as the allusions to smart growth, I can let Dennis and Scott talk about that, but that is laid out in the negative declaration. And it's laid out throughout the project with the smart growth principles that we are employing. To state that we're not employing smart growth is just a flat inaccuracy. These have been a mainstay of the project since the beginning. The third issue was the project impermissibly alienates a public park and replaces it with a privately operated space. That has been determined by the appellate division again in a unanimous decision in favor of the city and the applicant, and that issue is over. There is no parkland involved in this project. The next issue is the project sponsor has submitted an inadequate traffic report. That has been determined in the Supreme Court to have been adequate. Neg deck has been upheld. In addition, there's been a separate lawsuit that was brought on the road closure that was upheld in an interlocutory decision. It is still pending before the court now, but those decisions have been ruled in favor of the planning board and in favor of the applicant. The project requires, sixth issue, the project requires an easement over Schwenk Drive. This easement is already recorded. It's of record. It is in deed book 6971 at page 228. And the easement is recorded, so we already have it. Number 7, the site plan application is incomplete without an amendment for the Herzog Plaza. This I have addressed by saying that there is a plan for the Herzog Plaza. It's been part of this project. It's Dennis prepared it. It lays out the stair area, the safety of ingress and egress to it. And I cite to the negative declaration for that, which was where it was addressed. Also to one of the lawsuits where this issue was previously brought up and determined in our favor. And that was upholding the neg deck in total. That the neg deck, I should say, is still on appeal at the appellate division. We have not orally argued that yet, but the papers have been fully submitted. The current site plan shows the walkway and the connectivity. Future refinements being made to the site plan in connection with the planning board's continuing administrative review will be done. That's what Dennis has done and brought tonight about the overflow parking and some of the other issues. The elevated walkway is no longer located over the railroad tracks. The board may remember that we made a minor adjustment in that, which I think Scott and Dennis both agree is visually more appealing and more accessible to the public. If they need to answer anything with that, they certainly can. The next issue was the applicant has not demonstrated compliance with the zoning law. I don't really know where to begin with this because this has been litigated, wondrously tossed and examined. We have won every lawsuit with respect to the rezoning. The rezoning was upheld in the appellate division together with the public park issue. So that issue again is over. We did say that there's an inclusion of further refinements. We do not, because of those refinements, and Dennis and Scott can probably talk to them, we had indicated that we may need area variances during the pendency of the seeker review. And those areas were in the areas of landscaping, setback, and flood zone. We do not need any of those area variances. The project has been refined to obviate the need for any area variances at all. The May 24th correspondence, which was the second correspondence by the project opponents, really dealt with the floodplain development permit. My response goes through every section of the floodplain development permit that we need. Dennis Larios met with me, went through it. We spent quite a bit of time going through everything that was applicable. And I am satisfied that Dennis has everything that we need covered and that we will have that permit addressed, in a final decision at some point, and the floodplain administrator will attend to that as a hopefully a post approval condition. I think that Dennis will be following up to make certain that we have everything covered and I don't know if he wants to speak to it tonight, but the floodplain, he's very familiar with the floodplain regulations, far more familiar than I was with it. I mean, he sat down with me and explained what needs to be done. So
I think
that's everything. And
and
we did give copies, just so the board is aware too. I think everyone should know, we gave copies of the decisions to the board. The only decision from the court that you don't have is the most recent one from the appellate division last week.
Right. And then just to make a note for the record, that entire communication has been posted and it was circulated to all board members before this evening. So they've had that in their possession to review. So thank you very much for going through that though in good detail. Dennis, do you want to speak to the floodplain
Well, I think my
question? I
memo
know
speaks
your
to it.
memo addresses it, but
Essentially, you're allowed to, and as my memo says, and in the little blue drawing behind my memo that should be circulated amongst you, shows the little tiny dot northwest corner of the property that's within the zone A, E, established floodplain. That corner will require permit to work in that area, and certain construction standards apply when you're building in the floodplain under permit. And we can meet those standards without needing a variance from any of the provisions of the code. So it's pretty simple and straightforward.
can you, I don't know if you're able to this evening, but I do know that recently there were more borings done on the site. Can you speak to those results?
Only that there were a lot more borings, and test pits done on the site over the winter and early spring. And they were, the results of those were interpreted by the geotechnical and structural design team for the building and are going into the final building design with foundation system for that, for the project. The results, I don't believe were, I believe were consistent with the prior tests and that were done prior to and were submitted as part of the seeker review. It's just they did more significant, just broader testing throughout the site.
Right, thank you. Scott, do you have anything to add this evening? I do know that this project is scheduled for the agenda of the Tree Commission coming up on the 21st. We're going to be talking about the landscaping in the plaza and along the street frontages both along North Front Street and down below on Schwank. So,
And we circulated the city's latest approved street tree planting list to Dan Dove, our landscape architect, and I believe that he's selected street trees that are already pre-approved by the city, so I'm not expecting there to be much discussion there. And there's nothing contentious in my view about that. And if there's a preference for a particular tree over another tree, we'll have that discussion. But everything was selected from the pre-approved list from, I think Henry Street is the latest tree
Right.
list. Yeah. So, which is fairly fresh.
Any other questions,
no, from
from the board or the staff?
Would love to hear the board's thoughts on the county comments. So.
I mean, I think that what you have presented tonight takes care of what the county has commented on.
well, there would need to be
Uh,
obviously.
we need to vote
We
to-
will
on
have
the
to go
required
through them and
modifications, yeah.
prepare a response to the county. I don't know that we're prepared to do that this evening.
Yeah,
Was not intending to do that this evening. I do think there is some follow-up discussion that needs to be had, particularly with the North Front Street, the intersection with Fair and North Front where the plaza comes out. I'd like to do a little follow-up discussion on that, and then also down below in the plaza. I also want to take some time and go down to the plaza and look at the area where the staging is going to be, where it's proposed. Is that gated off, Brad, by any chance? No, so I can just go down there and walk around. Okay.
And with respect to what we talked about tonight with the North Front intersection there in front of the pedestrian plaza, does that just have to be passed through DPW for final approval? Does that need to go through landmarks as well? What's the process with that?
No, it would be DPW because it's a public street.
Okay, but nothing to do with landmarks with
No,
design?
that would
because
not
it's in-
require
okay.
going back. No.
And just to restate that we thought the county's comment was a good suggestion.
Yeah,
With no objection to raising the elevation. There's a preference to not raising the elevation, but in our minds, we've accepted that recommendation. It's a minor detail.
Right.
And it's not on property owned by the developer. So it's somewhat out of our control, and we're saying yes.
no, and I
We're making
know
a
you did say
suggestion for
yes.
a red brick.
I know,
traffic
but I was
code
just
color.
asking if it had to go through the Landmarks Commission because it was, that's all my only question. But it just has to do DPW, so. Any questions from the board? I know this wasn't supposed to be really a back and forth, but
Wayne, I would just, from a legal standpoint, I think the far easier solution and if all things being equal, if there's no great advantage to raising the street, I would much rather see the colors. I just, it's one less issue that is out of our control, like Scott said.
well, I'm going to concur with Matt about not raising the street myself. So,
Yeah, look at it.
and how about Emily and Sage? Okay, yeah. And it does make sense where you have the thing ripped up with your utilities in front, right, going in. This is just going to be, you're going to make that happen when you're patching back up, right? So, yeah,
Okay.
right.
Yeah, that area will be full depth replacement due to the extent of work out front.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, folks. At this
Thank you. to the
time,
board.
at this time, I'll make a motion that we table item number 1. Do I have a second? Second by Matt Gillis, all in favor?
Wayne, can I ask
Yes.
one question about August? The board, does the board meet in August at all?
We don't.
Okay, so is there opportunity for any special meetings in August or?
Well,
what?
I thought that question would come up tonight, and I think staff did too. So we're not in a position to say yes, no right now, but if you want to just touch base with Sue and Kyla to check on the availability of such a special meeting, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we recognize that, August is a difficult month in every municipality, but we'll
Yeah.
try and work around it. Thank
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's
All right, so we have a motion and a second to table. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, item number 2 is 63 Golden Hill Drive, a site plan / special permit / subdivision for construction of intergenerational, affordable mixed income, 164 unit housing community with associated amenities. Section block and lot is 56.40-1-19.300. Secret determination zone RRR Ward 3. Ulster County is the owner and Penrose NY Developer LLC is the applicant. Hello, everybody. Turn your microphones on. You can introduce yourselves, your team. Yeah, come on up, Dennis. Yeah.
Good evening, Roger Keating from Labella Associates. I'm the civil site engineer for the project.
Haley Begana with Labella Associates, civil engineer.
Dennis Doyle, Planning Director, Ulster County.
Mark Ryder, Deputy County Executive, Ulster County.
Okay, so the purpose tonight here is to go over the seeker, and then move on to the subdivision proposal. Okay, so everybody has.
right. Just a little precursor. Obviously, we've spent a lot of time. There's been a lot of information that's been prepared and circulated to all board members. We've had public hearings on this on the record. We've received public comment. We've gotten comment from other city agencies, including fire, police, our city engineering department, our DPW have weighed in, the water department have weighed in on this project. We've also engaged a consultant, a traffic consultant on the city's behalf to review that. We've looked at that in the past, had a presentation, and the board has concurred with the findings that the consultant made there. So in your documents, the CAC did make some substantial comments on the environmental considerations. So part 1 of the EPIAF has been updated. You've received a copy of that in email. There's also a hard copy in your packets tonight. Based on that and all of the supporting documentation and reports and presentations by the architects, by the engineers. We've had the stormwater elaborated on. The architect was here and gave detailed presentations on the building elevations and the design styles. We looked at landscaping, we looked at lighting, we looked at signage. So we've covered the gamut of things. The Parks and Rec Commission has reviewed the project as well. The applicants met with them, and it's my understanding that they are writing a report back to this board on the fee that will possibly be assessed. So that will be coming to you shortly, I'm hoping. Tonight, what we want to do is go through part 2 of the EAF in detail. You also want to look at part 3 this evening. In your packet as well is a prepared draft of a notice of neg deck determination for you to review, and that's based on all of the criteria which are laid out in the secret regulations. It follows the criteria point by point. and discusses that. I believe you've been provided copies of that, Roger, this evening.
Yes, I got a copy
Okay.
this evening.
Okay, okay. Oh, you can do that. Do that now.
All right, first of all, I want to acknowledge Matt Jankowski here, Assistant Corporation Counsel. Welcome aboard. Before we get into part two, we had a request for a sustainability checklist to be completed. That was by the CAC. The applicants have submitted one and all the members of this board have received a copy of it. I just wanted to put that into record that was submitted.
The only modification to that was something that at staff level, I had checked with Building Safety Division. On staff, there is a registered architect. So I wanted to ask them for their review of the document. And in doing so, we did modify the response to number 2 on that. It was the repair and reuse of existing buildings. So the response has been elaborated, and I'll read the new one for the record. It says, no, the former Ulster County Jail does not lend itself to adaptive reuse for multifamily housing because of its configuration and prior use. These factors make it impractical to reuse. Therefore, the former Ulster County Jail and additional buildings on site will be demolished. And just one other short note to make a record of is the Ulster County Legislature has adopted legislation for the demolition of the jail and the other buildings that are located on this site. And they've also made a separate and distinct neg deck, which is on the record. It's been circulated and it's considered in our environmental review. It was discussed within that, the issue of not being segmentation. So I just want to make it clear that we're all covered here. Okay. Okay.
Okay, the full environmental assessment form part 2, which has identification of potential project impacts. Everybody's got a copy of this in front of them now, right? Okay. So as regarding impact on land, the proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site. And the answer here is yes. And moving down into the letter A, the proposed action may involve construction on land where depth to water table is less than 3 feet. We have a no for small impact may occur. That is checked. Everybody concur with that? Okay. Proposed action may involve construction on slopes of 15% or greater. Checked off no or small impact may occur. It's going to be a small impact. Does everybody concur with that? Proposed action may involve the excavation and removal of more than 1,000 tons of natural material. Oh, sorry, excuse me. I'm going to go to C, sorry. The proposed action may involve construction on land where bedrock is exposed or generally within 5 feet of existing ground surface. The answer here is no, with small impact may occur. There is small impact. Everybody concur with that? Okay, letter D is the proposed action may involve the excavation and removal of more than 1,000 tons of natural material. Checked off here is no or small impact may occur. Everybody concurs. Letter E, the proposed action may involve construction that continues for more than 1 year or in multiple phases. No or small impact may occur. A small impact here. Everybody concur with that? Yeah.
Turn your mic on and, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Isn't the construction going to be longer than 1 year?
It may, right? But it is a small impact on that particular item here. It is saying that would be a small impact. And do you concur with that? Yes. Okay. Letter F, The proposed action may result in increased erosion, whether from physical disturbance or vegetation removal, including from treatment by herbicides. No or small impact may occur. We concur with that? Okay. Letter G, the proposed action is or may be located within a coastal erosion hazard area. No or small impact may occur. There's no impact on this, and we all concur here? Okay. Okay. Yep. And letter H, there's room for, anybody have any other impacts that think that may occur here? Okay. When I started this. Okay.
I'm offering to read.
All right. All right. Number 2, impact on geological features. The proposed action may result in the modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms on the site. Examples are cliffs, dunes, minerals, fossils, and caves. This is checked off as no. Does everybody concur with that? Okay. Okay. Do you want to take over from number 3? Do a couple of numbers on that and we'll go around the table?
Turn your mic on
And
speak
and
right
kinda-
into it.
So number 3, impacts on surface water. The proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies. There's a yes. Do we concur with that?
Yes, I do.
Proposed action may create a new water body. No.
I concur.
The proposed action may result in an increase or decrease of over 10% or more than a 10-acre increase or decrease in the surface area of any body of water. No.
Concur.
Proposed action may involve dredging more than, wow, that's loud, 100 cubic yards of material from a wetland or water body. No.
Concur.
The proposed action may involve construction within or adjoining a freshwater or tidal wetland or in the bed or banks of any other water body. No.
Sure.
The proposed action may create turbidity in a water body, either from upland erosion runoff or by disturbing bottom sediments. No.
Concur.
The proposed action may include construction of one or more intake for withdrawal of water from surface water. No.
Concur.
The proposed action may include construction of one or more outfalls for discharge of wastewater to surface water. No.
Concur.
The proposed action may cause soil erosion or otherwise create a source of stormwater discharge that may lead to siltation or other degradation of receiving water bodies. No.
Concur.
The proposed action may affect the water quality of any water bodies within or downstream of the site of the proposed action. Small
Concur.
impact.
Yeah.
The proposed action may involve the application of pesticides or herbicides in or around any water body. No.
Concur.
The proposed action may require the construction of new or expansion of existing wastewater treatment facilities. No.
Sure.
Do the next one.
Sure.
Number 4, impact on groundwater. The proposed action may result in new or additional use of groundwater or may have the potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater or an aquifer. No.
Concur.
Number 5, impact on flooding. The proposed action may result in development on lands subject to flooding. No.
Concur. You want to go next stage? You want to take the next? Oh, you want? Okay.
Number 6, impacts on air. The proposed action may include a state-regulated air emission source. No.
Concur.
Number 7, impact on plants and animals. The proposed action may result in a loss of flora or fauna. Yes.
Okay.
A, the proposed action may cause reduction in population or loss of individuals of any threatened or endangered species as listed by New York State or the federal government that use the site or are found on, over, or near the site. No.
Okay.
B, the proposed action may result in a reduction or degradation of any habitat used by any rare, threatened, or endangered species as listed by New York State or the federal government. No.
Concur.
C, the proposed action may cause reduction in population or loss of individuals of any species of special concern or conservation need as listed by the New York State or the federal government that use the site or are found on, over, or near the site. No.
Okay.
D, the proposed action may result in the reduction or degradation of any habitat used by any species of special concern and conservation need as listed by New York State or the federal government. No.
Okay.
E, the proposed action may diminish the capacity of a registered national natural landmark to support the biological community it was established to protect. No. F, the proposed action may result in the removal of or ground disturbance in any portion of a designated significant natural community. No. G, the proposed action may substantially interfere with nesting, breeding, foraging, or overwintering habitat for the predominant species that occupy or use the project site. No. H, the proposed action requires the conversion of more than 10 acres of forest, grassland, or any other regionally or locally important habitat. No. I, the proposed action, commercial, industrial, or recreational projects only involves use of herbicides or pesticides. No. J, other impacts. The site is within the potential roosting area of endangered bat species. Small impact.
I concur.
8, the impact on agricultural resources. The proposed action may impact agricultural resources. No.
Concur.
9, the impact on aesthetic resources. The land use of the proposed action are obviously different from or are in sharp contrast to the current land patterns between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource. No.
Okay. Matt, you want to take over from there? Number 10.
10, impact on historic and archaeological resources. The proposed action may occur in or adjacent to a historical or archaeological resource. Is checked no.
Okay.
11, impact on open space and recreation. The proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or a reduction of an open space resource as designated in any adopted municipal open space plan. That is checked no. 12, impact on critical environmental areas. The proposed action may be located within or adjacent to a critical environmental area. That is checked no. 13, impact on transportation. The proposed action may result in a change to existing transportation systems. That is checked yes.
Okay.
A, projected traffic increase may exceed capacity of existing road network. That is checked no. B, proposed action may result in the construction of paved parking area for 500 or more vehicles. No. C, the proposed action will degrade existing transit access. No. D, the proposed action will degrade existing pedestrian or bicycle accommodations. No. E, the proposed action may alter the present pattern of movement of people or goods. That is checked small.
I concur with that.
14, impact on energy. The proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy. Yes. A, the proposed action will require a new or an upgrading to an existing substation. No. The proposed action will require the creation or extension of an energy transmission or supply system to serve more than 50 single or two-family residences or to serve a commercial or industrial use. No. C, the proposed action may utilize more than 2,500 megawatt hours per year of electricity. No. D, proposed action may involve heating and or cooling of more than 100,000 square feet of building area when completed. Small.
Concur.
15, impact on noise, odor, and light. The proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting. Yes. A, the proposed action may produce sound above noise levels established by local regulation. No. B, the proposed action may result in blasting within 1,500 feet of any residence, hospital, school, licensed daycare center, or nursing home. Checked small. C, the proposed action may result in routine odors for more than 1 hour per day. No. D, the proposed action may result in light shining onto adjoining properties. No. E, the proposed action may result in lighting, creating sky glow brighter than existing area conditions. No. 16, impact on human health. The proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants. No. (17) Consistency with community plans. The proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plans. That is checked yes. A, the proposed action's land use components may be different from or in sharp contrast to current surrounding land use patterns. No. B, the proposed action will cause the permanent population of the city, town, or village in which the project is located to grow more than 5%. No. C, the proposed action is inconsistent with local land use plans or zoning regulations. Small. D, the proposed action is inconsistent with any county plans or other regional land use plans. No. E, the proposed action may cause a change in the density of development that is not supported by existing infrastructure or is distant from existing infrastructure. No. F, the proposed action is located in an area characterized by low density development that will require new or expanded public infrastructure. No. G, the proposed action may induce secondary development impacts, residential or commercial development not included in the proposed action. No. 18, consistency with community character. The proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character. That is checked yes. A, the proposed action may replace or eliminate existing facilities, structures, or areas of historic importance to the community. No. B, the proposed action may create a demand for additional community services. Small. C, the proposed action may displace affordable or low-income housing in an area where there's a shortage of such housing. No. D, the proposed action may interfere with the use or enjoyment of officially recognized or designated public resources. No. E, the proposed action is inconsistent with the predominant architectural scale and character. No. F, proposed action is inconsistent with the character of the existing natural landscape. No.
Thank you. Just a couple of other points that I did not mention at the beginning. We also did, the applicants also reached out to the school district to identify if there would be any impact to the school district and their facilities, and they said that there would not be. The other issue I just wanted to, and the board members are aware, but there is a rezoning needed for this project. It's currently zoned RRR, single-family residential, and the applicants have submitted to the council. It went as a communication last night, the full application on the rezoning to the O2 district. So I just wanted to mention those two items as well to everybody. Okay.
Thank you, Sue. All right. So that was part 2. And now we're going to move on to part 3 of the FEAF. Evaluation of potential project impacts. Number 1, impact on land. The proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site. 1B, the proposed action may involve construction on slopes of 15% or greater. The project will involve minor disturbance totaling approximately 68,432 square feet on slopes greater than 15%. The applicant will implement an erosion and sediment control plan to minimize the impact. Erosion and sediment control measures include, but are not limited to, stabilized construction access, dust control, temporary soil stockpiles, silt fencing, temporary seeding, manufactured insert inlet protection, erosion control blankets, and dewatering operations if necessary. Permanent erosion and sediment control measures will include the establishment of permanent vegetation and rock outlet protection. The implementation of the erosion and sediment control plan will minimize any potential impact. The construction of a trail through a wooded area, traversing areas where steeper slopes are present, is planned to be done using minimal disturbance, avoiding removal of trees with DBH of 3 inches or greater, using natural materials for the base, and meandering to follow natural pathways and minimal resistance. 1C, the proposed action may involve construction on land where the bedrock is exposed or generally within 5 feet of existing ground surface. The applicant has designed the site to avoid areas of shallow bedrock where possible, but it is likely that bedrock will be encountered and will require removal. Bedrock will be ripped where possible, but it is possible that blasting will be required in the area of the proposed 4-story multifamily building. If blasting is necessary, the applicant will be required to comply with Chapter 166, blasting of the City of Kingston Code. Chapter 166 requires that a permit be obtained from the city fire chief prior to blasting and specifies requirements for the amount, transport, and storage of explosives, notification of adjacent property owners, hours and days of blasting, and other safety measures. These requirements will minimize any potential impact from blasting. 1E, the proposed project may involve construction that continues for more than 1 year or in multiple phases. The applicant estimates that construction will occur over a 19-month period. The applicant has prepared a construction logistics plan. The plan specifies routes to be followed by construction vehicles, construction material laydown areas, washout stations, fence, container, truck and trailer locations. The construction logistics plan specifies construction sequencing and will be integrated with the stormwater and erosion control plans. The applicant will be required to undertake regular monitoring and conditions reporting weekly and will maintain records of such to be made available to the city upon request for inspection, with monthly reports submitted to the superintendent of the Department of Public Works. The construction logistics plan will minimize any potential impact from the length of the construction period. Number 2, impact on geological features. The proposed action may result in the modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms on the site. The project will not impact any let me read those in parens. Okay. Yes. No. You want me to, I don't need to put that, read that in the prints, yeah. Yeah, the project will not impact any geological features. Yes, please.
Number 3, impacts on surface water. The proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies, for example, streams, rivers, ponds, or lakes. 3I, the proposed action may affect the water quality of any water bodies within or downstream of the site of the proposed action. Under the existing conditions, much of the site's impervious area discharges off-site, including to an adjacent pond located near the northwest corner of the site below the existing maintenance garage, without being captured and treated in any way. Under post-development conditions, the drainage area tributary to the pond will be reduced so that the only runoff will be from the adjacent wooded area. All other stormwater runoff will be captured and treated prior to discharge. A draft stormwater pollution prevention plan, SWIP, has been designed in accordance with the New York State DEC requirements. It requires the stormwater be detained and released at a rate not to exceed the pre-development rate. It also requires that stormwater be treated prior to discharge. Treatment will include a bioretention basin, stormwater planters, and hydrodynamic separators. The final SWIP is subject to the review and approval of the city engineer. The MS4 acceptance form has been executed, and the SWIP will be filed with the New York State DEC. Weekly inspections will be required to ensure that all stormwater facilities are functioning as designed. As a component of the SWIP, the applicant will execute a stormwater maintenance agreement in a form approved by City Corporation Council and city engineer. Said agreement will incorporate the full SWIP as endorsed by the city engineer and filed with the state. The implementation of the SWIP will result in no adverse impacts to surface water features. Number 4, impact on groundwater. The proposed action may result in new or additional use of groundwater or may have potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater or an aquifer. The project will not impact or encounter groundwater. Number 5, impact on flooding. The proposed action may result in development on land subject to flooding. The project is not located in a floodplain and will have no impacts on flooding. Number 6, impact on air. The proposed action may include a state-regulated air emission source. The project does not include a state-regulated air emission source. Number 7, impact on plants and animals. The proposed action may result in a loss of flora or fauna. 7J, other impacts. The site is within the potential roost area of endangered bat species. The project site lies within the range of the northern long-eared bat, a threatened species. The northern long-eared bat roosts with exfoliating bark of and cavities of suitable trees. To avoid impacts, tree clearing will occur between November 1st and March 31st. If the applicant desires to clear trees outside of that time period, further consultation with the New York State DEC will be required. See the correspondence from the New York State DEC dated January 28th of 2022. And that has been uploaded to the website. And also you have seen that circulated to you prior to this meeting. The New York State DEC has documented bald eagle nests over 0.5 miles to the project location. The New York State DEC recommends that blasting, rock removal, and pile driving, if any, occur between November 1st and March 31st. If the applicant desires to conduct these activities outside of this time period, additional consultation will be required. The trail construction through the wooded area is planned to be done using the minimal disturbance, avoiding removal of trees with DBH of 3 inches or greater, and using natural materials for the base, meandering to follow natural pathways with minimal resistance in an effort to preserve natural habitat areas. Based on the foregoing, the project will not have any significant impacts to plants and animals. Number 8, impact on agricultural resources. The proposed action may impact agricultural resources. Well, the project will not impact any agricultural resources. Number 9, impact on aesthetic resources. The land uses of the proposed action are obviously different from or in sharp contrast to current land use patterns between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource. The project will not impact aesthetic resources. Impact on historic and archaeological resources. The proposed action may occur in or adjacent to a historic or archaeological resource. The project will have no impact on historic or archaeological resources. Reference the letter from New York State Office of Parks, Rec, and Historic Preservation dated December 13th, 2021. That's also been posted to the website and circulated to board members prior to this meeting. Impact on open space and recreation. The proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or a reduction of an open space resource as designated in any adopted municipal open space plan. The project will not remove any existing public open space or recreation resources. The applicant will construct a walking trail through an existing wooded area that has indicated that there will be no restricted access to the entire wooded area for residents. Number 12, impact on critical environmental areas. The proposed action may be located within or adjacent to a critical environmental area, CEA. The project is not located in a critical environmental area. Number 13, impact on transportation. The proposed action may result in a change of existing transportation systems. Number 13E, the proposed action may alter the present pattern of people or goods. The applicant's traffic consultant, Labella Associates, completed a traffic impact assessment dated December 17th, 2021, revised February 16th, 2022 for the project. The assessment estimated the number of trips for the weekday AM and PM peak hours and evaluated the potential traffic impacts to the intersection of Boulevard/Golden Hill Drive with and without closure of the connector between Golden Hill Drive and Glen Street. Recommendations of the assessment included the installation of an intersection warning sign and a speed feedback sign on the boulevard approaching Golden Hill Drive, but did not recommend the installation of 3-color traffic signal at the intersection. Ulster County is proceeding with the closure between Golden Hill Drive and Glen Street. Access to emergency vehicles will be provided. The city retained Greenman Peterson Associates, GPI, to conduct an independent review of Labella's traffic impact assessment. GPI issued preliminary comments on March 29th and April 20th, with a final comment issued on May 16th, 2022. At its May 16th meeting, the Planning Board accepted the findings of GPI's review, including 1, installation of a gate at the top of Glen Street, which would be automated to prevent cut-through access but allow emergency access. There was a statement from Golden Hill Nursing and Rehab Center facility that noted acknowledging the placement of the gate, with signage coordinated to advise traffic. Number 2, 80 senior housing units will be a condition of the final site plan approval, as this impacts the calculations of the trip generation. Number 3, a traffic signal with pedestrian signaling equipment will be installed at Route 32 intersection with Golden Hill for the safety of pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorized vehicles, along with warning signage on Route 32. As part of the development project, indoor bike parking will be provided in 2 multifamily buildings. Building A, the senior building, will have 26 spaces, and Building B will have 26 spaces. Additionally, 12 outdoor bike rack fixtures accommodating 24 bikes will be provided across the site for residents and visitors. The county has submitted written confirmation that they will install standard shared roadway signage on Golden Hill Drive, which they privately own. All proposed sidewalks on site are accessible routes and comply with the Department of Justice 2010 ADA standards for accessible design. Pedestrian crosswalks are provided on site near Building A, the senior building, Building B, and the community center. Additionally, a UCAT bus stop is proposed adjacent to the community center. With these improvements, no significant adverse impacts are anticipated. And I was just going to turn it over to Emily. Yes, thank you.
Number 14, impact on energy. The proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy. 14D, the proposed action may involve heating and or cooling of more than 100,000 square feet of building area when completed. The project has a gross floor area of 184,261 square feet. The project will be designated to use all electric systems, including high efficiency inverter heat pumps for space conditioning and balanced ventilation via exhaust induced fresh air through an outside air duct connected to the heat pump to increase indoor air quality. Building enclosures will include continuous exterior insulation with taped sheathing systems sealed to exceed Energy Star air tightness requirements, any Energy Star appliances, and low flow plumbing fixtures. The project will be designed to comply with the following green building programs: Enterprise Green Community 2020 Plus, Energy Star for multifamily new construction, DOE, Department of Energy, Zero Energy Ready Homes Program, NYSERDA, multifamily new construction program. In addition, the applicant has agreed to review the feasibility of installing photovoltaic arrays at building roofs and will incorporate PV into the design to the greatest extent possible. Based on the foregoing, the project will not have a significant adverse impact. Number 15, impact on noise, odor, and light. The proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting. 15B, the proposed project may result in blasting within 1,500 feet of any residence, hospital, school, licensed daycare center, or nursing home. The project may result in blasting within 1,500 feet of the Golden Hill Nursing and Rehabilitation Center. See Section 1C for a discussion of measures to minimize impacts from blasting. Based on this assessment, the project will not have significant impacts to this nursing and rehabilitation center. 16, impact on human health. The proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants. 16A, the proposed action is located within 1,500 feet of a school, hospital, licensed daycare center, group home, nursing home, or retirement community. The project is located directly adjacent to the Golden Hill Nursing and Rehabilitation Center. The construction activity will require sensitivity to that occupancy. Mitigation measures that are identified in the SWPPP SWIP for erosion and dust control will aid in reducing any impact. The city also has a noise ordinance. Yeah, that was a good guess. Which has parameters which will need to be followed. If the applicant wishes to exceed the limitations, then an application for a special permit will need to be made with justifications. Number 17, consistency with community plans. The proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plans. 17C, the proposed project is inconsistent with local land use plans or zoning regulations. The project requires a zoning amendment to rezone the property from one family residence district, RRR, which is primarily a residential district, to limited office district, O2, which allows for office, residential, and mixed-use development. The project site is currently home to the former Ulster County Jail, as well as various other health and transportation facilities. As such, it is not well suited for single-family development. The proposed use is consistent with the character of the surrounding area. There are no impacts specific to the rezoning itself. Impacts associated with subsequent project development are analyzed in this EAF. The project will also require an area variance from section 405-13A4, which states that the building length shall not exceed 160 feet. This section applies to the O2 limited office district as listed in 405-23B5, which allows for multifamily dwelling subject to the restrictions of 405-13A4. 17H, other, per the city comprehensive plan, requires completion of a sustainable development checklist. The project is subject to this requirement as there is a proposal for a pilot payment in lieu of taxes agreement that is under discussion. A form has been provided to the planning board and accepted with modifications. Said document as revised will become part of this determination as referenced. Number 18, consistency with community character. The proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character. 18B, the proposed action may create a demand for additional community services. For example, schools, police, and fire. The project has been and will continue to be subject to review by the city fire department to ensure that fire and emergency vehicles can safely access all structures. The project will not have a significant impact on school resources. See a letter from Dr. Paul J. Padalino, Superintendent of Kingston City School District dated May 13th, 2022. The project is anticipated to have an impact on City of Kingston parks and recreational programming. The project is not anticipated to make significant demands on police resources. Based on the foregoing, the project will not have a significant impact on community services.
Okay, do any board members have any questions related to, I know that was a lot of reading, but it was important to go through it in detail. Do any board members have any questions or comments? Any thoughts or on changes, modifications, additions, deletions to any of the impacts as they've been presented and described? Okay. So in your packets this evening, I also want to bring your attention to a form. It's the State Environmental Quality Review Neg Deck form. It's the Notice of Determination of Non-Significance. This is the form that will ultimately get submitted to the state for the EMB posting. It gets into it. I'm not going to read this verbatim because we've basically elaborated on several of these issues. But I do want to point out, it does do a more elaborate description of the action. And it also incorporates some other components that were not included in the original FEAF, such as the Ulster County Legislature's adoption. Those elements were not included in the EAF, so they're incorporated into this document here. This does go through, there's a section that is added supplemental to this. It's the reasons supporting this determination. And it would be a negative determination. And it would be just a regular neg deck, not conditioned. Okay. So the reasons supporting the determination, I'm going to read the first portion of this, and then I'm just going to go through the criteria. And these are criteria straight out of the seeker regulations themselves. I'll give you a few minutes to read then what follows that as an explanation. If there's any comment, I'd like to hear back. But a lot of this is just rehashing what we've just read through as part 3. All right. So the environmental analysis of the reasonably related long-term, short-term, direct, indirect, sequential, and combined impacts of these related and simultaneous environmental factors started with an analysis of the existing conditions of the project site. The review then analyzed the environmental impacts of the proposed changes and actions while comparing those impacts with the impacts on existing land use to determine if the proposed action may have a significant adverse environmental impact. No other related or subsequent actions are included in any long-range plans for the proposed site, nor likely to be undertaken, nor dependent on actions which are now under consideration. Accordingly, this negative declaration, determination of non-significance, adopts the FEAF parts 1, 2, and 3 as set forth by the Planning Board's findings pursuant to Seeker 6 NYCRR Part 617 and adopted on July 13th, 2022, so that you will have a resolution afterwards adopting that document. Said document is made part of this determination by reference hereto and includes all project submission within the listing attached hereto dated 7/11/22. And that listing is the all of the project submissions. It includes all the reports, all the plans, communications that came from other outside agencies. It's a very comprehensive listing, and that is also included in your packets if you care to review it. The Planning Board recognizes the criteria as enumerated under 6 NYCRR Part 627.7C as follows. I'm going to read each of the criteria individually, as I said. So the first one is a substantial adverse change in existing air quality, ground or surface water quality or quantity, traffic or noise levels, a substantial increase in solid waste production, a substantial increase in potential for erosion, flooding, leaching, or drainage problems. And I'll give you a few minutes to read the section there that is written to address that criteria. And if there's any questions, let me know.
I have a question. The part of the condition of approval is going to be, the installation of the traffic improvements. Have you been in consultation yet with the city and county to start that process?
As to when the traffic will,
Or just to address the traffic improvements that were outlined before? Have you entered into those discussions yet?
yeah, we're going to have a meeting to outline when those improvements would be defined,
Okay.
but as they're most certainly part of the project at this
Yeah.
point.
Okay.
I would look for to provide the board with at least a plan or an understanding of when and how those will be accomplished, those improvements will be done. So I think that would be something that would be done in combination with the developer, the county, and the city all at the table together.
Okay.
And that could be left to staff level for getting that all taken. It doesn't have to come back necessarily.
Well, it would be, yeah, you'd want a plan in, at least some form of plan for your final site plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any questions on that first criteria? And the explanation?
No other questions
No?
from me.
Okay. Second criteria, the removal or destruction of large quantities of vegetation or fauna, substantial interference with the movement of only resident or migratory fish or wildlife species, impacts on a significant habitat area, substantial adverse impacts on a threatened or endangered species of animal or plant, or the habitat of such species, or other significant adverse impacts to natural resources. So again, just read through. This goes back to the conditions assessment that was included in the FEAF documentation, speaks to the New York State DEC communications regarding both the bats and the bald eagles, and also speaks to the trail to preserve natural habitats.
Just back to that traffic thing, when you mention a plan, is that just a summary of the like the timing of the improvements, or I just want to be clear as to what we'll be
Once, I
providing
mean,
back.
obviously the board has taken the position that they're endorsing the findings of Greenman Peterson, and that being said, having some kind of a plan in place as to when those improvements will be.
Okay, I have a better understanding. I just
Right.
clarifying the word plan. That's
Okay.
all. Thank you.
Any questions with the second criteria? Okay, the third criteria was the impairment of the environmental characteristics of the critical environmental area as designated pursuant to Seeker 6 NYCRR Part 617.14G. And again, there is no CEA involved here, so that one is not applicable. ND4, the creation of material conflict with the community's current plans or goals as officially approved or adopted. Again, this speaks to not only the zoning amendment, which is currently has been initiated, but speaks to landlord legislation, community housing action plans, the area variance. We've touched on the comprehensive plan, the fire department, school district, and the local law number 6, which is the payment in lieu of parkland for the impact to the city parks and rec facilities.
And they're still formulating that? Yeah.
Any questions on that one?
No.
Okay. The next criteria, number 5, the impairment of the character or quality of important historical, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources, or of existing community or neighborhood character.
I
Anything?
think we're good there.
Okay, all right.
I hate to just interrupt, I just want to bring attention back to 17. 17. I just wanted to make clear on the record and correction that the city comprehensive plan as adopted, it does detail objectives that they're looking to pursue, but there actually is no requirement within the comprehensive plan for the sustainable development checklist. The applicant did go out of their way to actually address that and provide the criteria and showing how the project addresses and meets that criteria, but the comprehensive plan itself does not actually require.
Okay, so does everybody understand that that goes back to part 3? It would be on page 6 of that part 3 of the FEAF under item number 17, consistency with community plans. It was written there that under 17H, per the comprehensive plan, requires completion. It does not, as Matt has just stated, it does not require that sustainability checklist to be completed. But the applicant did submit it and provide it. So I will change the language of required in both the initiating statement and the below to say that it was voluntarily submitted. Okay.
And that was asked of them by the CAC, correct?
It was requested by CAC. Okay, so then I'm going to move on to, we just did ND4, the criteria 4. I didn't hear any objection to that. So I'm going to move on to number 5, the impairment of character or quality of important. We did that one. I'm sorry. That's the last one I wrote. I apologize. Were there any comments on that? Okay. So the next one is number 6, a major change in the use of either the quantity or type of energy. Again, this goes through the use of public water supply and wastewater sewer, as far as utilities, electricities, the source of power, the EV stations, speaks to the Energy Star and the green building programs that are being incorporated into the project design. I don't know if anybody has any additional comments. Okay. Number 7 was the creation of a hazard to human health. Again, this is just a short paragraph that again reiterates the, applicable building and fire codes are going to be followed. We're using city utilities, water, sewer, electric, telecommunication, etc. It does identify Golden Hill Nursing and Rehab Center as an adjacent use, which is a sensitive use, and mitigation measures identified not only in the SWIP, but also the noise ordinance for that particular impact. Any comment? Okay, moving right along to number 8, the substantial change in use or intensity of use of land, including agriculture, open space, or recreational resources, or in its capacity to supplement, or in its capacity to support existing uses. Basically, we're not in an agricultural district, so does not really apply. So number 9, the encouraging or attracting of a large number of people to a place or places for more than a few days compared to the number of people who would come to such place absent the action. This is not a significant adverse environmental impact. The rezoning will create the O2 zoning district, which will allow for the new residential uses. I don't really feel that it's a significant impact. Okay. Number 10, the creation of a material demand for other actions that will result in one of the above consequences. Basically, I wrote there's no proposed action will not create material demand for other actions. Number 11, changes in two or more elements of the environment, no one of which has a significant impact on the environment, but when considered together will result in a substantial adverse impact on the environment. Let me read that. Short, sweet. And last is number 12, two or more related actions undertaken, funded, or approved by an agency, none of which has or would have a significant impact on the environment, but when considered cumulatively would meet one or more of the criteria in the subdivision. You can read that discussion there. Good. Okay. So just the last paragraph I will read into the record. Based on the foregoing, implementation of the proposed unlisted action is not anticipated to result in any significant adverse environmental or socioeconomic fiscal impacts, and thus issuance of this seeker negative declaration is appropriate and an environmental impact statement is not required.
Everybody concurs with that? Okay. All right, thank you, Sue. So as a result, we have a resolution prepared for us. Resolution of the City of Kingston Planning Board adopting a determination of negative declaration of environmental significance for Golden Hill Housing Project under the seeker process 6 NYCRR Part 617. Whereas the Penrose LLC, the applicant, has submitted plans along with a completed Part 1 of the full environmental assessment form to the City of Kingston Planning Board, hereby known as the Board, for construction of 6 buildings of 164 units of intergenerational affordable mixed income housing and community building on 20 plus acres of land to be subdivided from a 41 plus acre parcel owned by Ulster County. The project will also include a zoning change of the 20 plus acre parcel from RRR, single family residential, to O2, limited office, otherwise known as the Action. And whereas the project to be known as Golden Hill is located at 63 Golden Hill Drive, section block and lot 56.40-1-19.300. And whereas under the original review, the board determined the action to be unlisted under seeker, however, decided to seek lead agency status in resolution 11-15-21 and conduct a coordinated review process due to the scope of the proposal and number of agency reviews required. And whereas after receiving no objections, the planning board adopted a resolution dated December 20th, 2021, declaring themselves as lead agency in the seeker review and considered all documentation submitted to determine significance of the action on the environment in compliance with the New York State Environmental Conservation Law, seeker, and regulations promulgated there under, in parens, the regulations by the New York Department of Environmental Conservation, 6 NYCRR Part 617. And whereas the applicants have submitted an updated Part 1 of the FEAF dated June 30th, 2022 to reflect changes which have been brought forward through public comment and further review. And whereas the board has reviewed and considered comments from the Ulster County Planning Board, City Conservation Advisory Council, City Engineer, City Fire Chief, Kingston Water Department, Kingston School District, and public comment. And whereas the board recognizes the attached Ulster County Legislature's resolution number 167 dated May 17th, 2022, adopting a negative declaration of environmental significance with regard to the demolition of the jail. And whereas the May 16th, 2020 Planning Board meeting, the board endorsed the findings and recommendations contained in the final traffic impact analysis dated 5/16/2022, as prepared by the city's consultant GPI. And whereas using all documentation outlined in the attached review document listing, July 12th, 2022, and comments and made part of this review in their full form. And whereas the board reviewed and submitted sustainability checklist as prepared by Labella, and whereas the board completed the incorporated parts 2 and 3 of the FEAF, and whereas the board has reviewed a negative declaration, notice of determination, along with all supporting plans and documents as herein identified. Now therefore be it resolved by the City of Kingston Planning Board as follows. Section 1, that pursuant to 6 NYCRR Part 617, the City of Kingston Planning Board hereby renders a determination of negative environmental significance, recognizing all conditions as described within the document presented, and adopts the negative determination as final. Section 2, that all identified, involved, and interested agencies will be notified of the Kingston Planning Board determination of this decision. Section 3, that the Kingston Planning Office is directed to submit notice to the State Environmental News Bulletin for publication as required by the statute. And Section 4, that this resolution shall take effect immediately. Wayne Platt here with a motion to adopt this resolution. Do I have a second? Second by Matt Gillis. All in favor, Wayne Platt is a yes. Matthew Gillis,
Yes.
Emily Hamilton,
Yes.
Sage Newkirk.
Yes.
Okay, the resolution is adopted.
Just give us a second to do signatures and then we'll move on.
We're going to use this one?
No.
Okay. 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 Yeah. All right. Move on to the subdivision now. Okay.
So, it's pretty straightforward.
Sure thing, absolutely.
I believe the board has seen this plan before. This is the final subdivision plan. It also included lot descriptions of the new resultant parcels, which we have checked at staff level. And we also received all of the easement agreements in form. And Matt, you have looked those over?
I have reviewed the easements. They are satisfactory, and they do actually include the additional language that I would have required in like an RMA. So I wouldn't be. Any additional piece of it.
Okay, that's what we talked about today, Dennis, earlier, I believe. Okay.
Yes, it's again, Roger from Keating from Labella here. It's a pretty straightforward application. Everyone here is aware of what we're trying to do as it pertains to the overall parcel.
You need that down closer to you at all? Or you good?
No, it's okay. I've
Okay.
seen this plan plenty of times. So the parcel's around 40 acres or so. Essentially what we're looking to do is divide the parcel right in half. So the health department parcel that's up along Golden Hill the 20 acres would remain in the county's possession. The balance of the land would go to Penrose, which would also include the access drive that connects to Golden Hill Drive that brings you back currently to the jail. It's relatively straightforward. I think the little inserts actually help very well at the top of the page to kind of give you a clear understanding of how we're trying to just divide that land between the two. If you have any questions, please let me know.
So just the easements cover, because Golden Hill Drive is a private roadway owned by the county, the easements cover the access and the maintenance of that roadway, covers utility easements crossing. I believe there's also, is there pedestrian involved in that as well?
Correct.
What am I missing, Dennis or Matt? Okay, okay, all right. No.
Okay.
Okay. Straightforward. You've already done seeker. Your seeker covers this, and we'll cover your site plan. Okay. You do have to vote. Well, not seeker, but you do.
All right, so Wayne Platt here. I'm going to make a motion that we approve the subdivision with 5 paper copies and 1 Mylar to be provided to staff. Board policy 6 will need to be signed. And what's this here? Sorry.
Fully signed by the owners and the applicant.
Okay.
And final filed easements will have to be returned to planning.
Okay. That is a motion. Do I have a second? Second by Matt Gillis. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carry.
Okay.
All right.
Sue, may I ask a question? Just a quick question. The 62-day clock will start from the signature. Am I correct?
The 60 days starts from Wayne's signature.
Okay.
So he won't sign that until you're ready for it to be filed.
And just for us, we need to know that we need to file. Otherwise, we have to go through this all again. So we need to file within that timeframe. Okay.
Yeah. So we just need the 5 paper copies and the Mylar. If you want additional paper copies signed and executed, some people need more copies than that. Just make sure you include them, but that's our minimum.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Wayne Platt here with a motion to table item number 2. Do I have a second on that?
I was going to just 1 second, if we could. It's just procedurally, so for site plan approval, we would be coming back at the next regularly scheduled meeting at
Yeah,
this
you would,
point.
you're automatically rolled to the September, would be the September meeting,
Unless there's
19th.
A special meeting I heard maybe. So I heard it before us, that's all. So
Well, I'll give you the answer that I gave the item number 1 applicants.
I
Take it up with staff. They have access to all the calendars and what have you. It's so if you could do that, I know. Yeah, I can't say yes tonight. So
But in the meantime, you're moving forward with your rezoning, with your variance request, and also I'd like to get that other discussion going and hopefully get that issue, that plan put together for the off-site traffic improvements.
If I may, thank you. We would, one is we would love to have the opportunity to reappear with Kingstonian one more time. So that special meeting request, we will, we would urge you to
Well, that could be on
consider
the
a
regular
special
agenda of
meeting.
September, right? He'd
We
appear with
would hope
them at
before
that
that.
time.
The other thing, I just want to talk briefly about whether or not the board will consider site plan approval absent a rezoning. And I just remind the board that there is case law out there that basically says you can accept, you can go through site plan approval without a rezoning in place. In fact, the case law says you must do that if it's presented in front of you. The other thing I just wanted in terms of the urgency of this, otherwise I wouldn't be so adamant about trying to get you to consider site plan approval, is the applicant has some specific requirements in terms of submittals for a very large chunk of funding that basically require site plan to be approved. And so what we would hope to happen is that if you're nervous about any particular elements of a site plan, that you would consider a conditional site plan approval, which we could take to those funding authorities. So A, we would urge a special meeting if you would consider it. And B is if there are things that we're missing when we come back for that, we would urge that consideration of a conditional site plan approval with the idea that this applicant will more than be willing to meet any of the conditions and needs that site plan approval as part of their efforts to secure additional funding.
And we have done site plan approvals in the past with conditions of approval. So I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibilities. So.
And last, if I may, I just want to thank the board for its efforts with respect to this project from the start. You've shown a remarkable ability to essentially understand what is, quite frankly, a complicated process because of the county's involvement. And B, I'd want to thank you for your diligence with respect that you've taken in terms of getting to a negative declaration. It's much appreciated.
Well, and this board recognizes the significance of this project. The scope of it. Two government agencies working side by side to accomplish the same goals. So, we appreciate the efforts that you have made to address all of the concerns of the residents, the concerns of this board, the county's concerns. So I wanted to say that as well, that we appreciate, the steps that you have taken to get us to this point. So.
If I could just ask one question, just to clarify for the applicant, the only outstanding issues for that site plan approval at either a special meeting or the next regularly scheduled is the rezoning and the plan for the traffic light, or is there anything else outstanding?
Well, the traffic includes the gate, okay, and also includes the light, and the rezoning is in question. The variance is an issue. I don't think that there is anything else out there. Parks and Rec we're still waiting for that recommendation. So that will be, we'll need that to make that final decision.
And that could be made a condition.
Yeah, I mean, there are conditions. There is a requirement for a performance bond on this. That will be a condition. I think it's obviously too early to put together a detailed cost estimate for the project. So that would be a condition. There are a few other, I'd have to go through my notes in detail that I don't have with me right now, but I'm sure there are a few other loose ends. The water obviously is another issue that will need to be finalized. So there's those things that are sitting out there.
Okay, but for the most part, they could be made conditional upon
Right. Yeah.
approval. I
would think so. Yeah, I would think so.
This room
But I
later on
think,
this
the
month.
plan is probably the big ticket item, quite frankly.
Great. Thank you.
Well, thanks again. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, no,
closing
no.
the
I'm
meeting out, but
glad that you did, yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to table item number 2, and Matt did. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. All right.
I do have one more thing for the board members that are here.
Thank you, folks.
And then I have another one to Erin Drost, who's the grants officer of the Taconic Regional Office from New York State Office of Parks, Rec, and Historic Preservation. It's another City of Kingston sponsored CFA grant. It's for Dietz Stadium upgrades project, and it's the phase 3 of that project. So there are 2 letters of support that they've requested from the planning board to go in with the grant applications. So can I have a motion to accept them and have Wayne sign them, and a second?
Can I ask a question about the Brownfield Opportunity Area? Is it for a specific part of Midtown?
I don't have the map in front of me. It's Midtown Kingston. It doesn't have, I don't have a actual area map. I can get that for you.
I'm just curious, but, okay. I mean, I would support it because I know of an area in Midtown that,
Probably was included in that.
yeah, it probably is included, but I was just,
I can get you that information.
So is that a motion to accept sending these letters? Okay. Motion by Emily Hamilton and second by Matt Gillis to approve sending both letters to their respective agencies. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Sign, please.
Okay. Motion to adjourn by Sage Newkirk and Matt Gillis with a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.